The three numbers I'm going to share with you today could be the combination to unlock the success of your business. My name is Russell Pearson. I am the founder of the Forge Business Program, where we help consultants, potentially just like you, build and grow their consulting practices. For the last 30 years, I've been working in the areas of sales and marketing, and I work primarily with consultants so that they can help other people. That is really the goal for what I'm doing, is to create massive leverage. By helping consultants, I know that they can advise, help, and guide a lot more people around the world. And so I feel like I'm actually doing something with my time on this earth. But today I want to give you these three numbers that are going to make it a lot easier, well, in fact, more focus on specifically what activities are going to be important for you to grow your business. So today we want to talk about ratios. Ratios are absolutely key when it comes to sales in particular. And so while there are all sorts of ways that we show you on the podcast on how to improve your consulting business, this piece is actually going to be concentrating on the generation of work within your business. Now, if you know these numbers, you know exactly what you need to do to grow to whatever stage or size business that you want. There are three pieces that we need to be clear on. The first is short conversations. Now, within the Forge, we call them chats. These are short conversations. They can be done verbally. They could be done, obviously, on the phone, which is verbal. They could be done over text message. They could be done on Messenger. They could be done on email. But they're short back and forth. So the key with chats is that they are a two-way conversation. They are saying something, the person responding to us, or them saying something to us responding to them, and then the conversation continues. It is not a one-way conversation where we just say things at people, because that's not what we count as a chat. So just clarifying some things on what that looks like. But we might find that it takes somewhere around 5 to, let's say, 25 or even 30 conversations, short little chats, to book an appointment. Now, how many it takes you is your ratio. You need to know what your specific ratio is. Now, for a client that I worked with last week, their ratio was 10 to 1. So 10 conversations to get one person to book an appointment with them. So that moved into appointments. Now, we call appointments in the Forge priority calls, because what we want to do is identify, is there a priority to do something now? Because this first appointment, short appointment, usually somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes, is for us to get clear as to if there is something to work on yet. Because often we can be engaged with a prospect, but they might not be ready to say yes. Now, if you move ahead with that engagement too early, you can be chasing that appointment for the next 6 to 18 months. And we want to avoid that, which is why we have a priority call. Now, you might find that within here, you've got maybe a 1 in 3, so 3 to 1, conversion from a priority call to actually having a design call. Now, a design call is really a sales call, but that's our opportunity to not be salesy. We're not pitching. In fact, the entire process we use doesn't use pitching or anything salesy. In fact, even service delivery in anything we do. We do diagnostic. We work with the patient, very much like a doctor. We work with the prospect as a consultant to diagnose if they need what we've got, what specifically do they need, and ideally where it hurts and what they want instead. So we call those design calls. Now, these calls could be absolutely a call. They could be a phone call. They could be on a digital platform, maybe Zoom or something like that. They could be in person. So we called it a call because we're just showing up to actually have a conversation, but design is the key to it. And we talk about how to go about that design in some of the other podcasts that we put out there. Now, your conversion rate on that may also be something like 3 to 1, 2 to 1, 50% is 2 to 1, 80% would be 4 out of 5. But for most people, the average that I tend to see is, again, 3 to 1. Okay? Which means that if you want to book one sale, all right, so we want one sale, it means that we need 3 design calls to book one sale. So we're going to need 3 here to book one. We're also going to work back and say we're going to need to times it by 3 here to have 9. So 9 appointments, 9 short appointments to identify if now's the right time to have 3. We might speak to have 1. And then of this, we're going to have to chat with 90 people, because it's 10 to 1, to actually move these pieces along. Okay? Now, This may seem like a lot. It may seem like a hell of a lot of hard work, but as a consultant, you're not charging $20 an hour. You're not charging small amounts of money. In fact, the majority of times you're going to be charging tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout the engagement that you will have with someone. Now, for the prospect that I was talking to recently, it was $50,000 per engagement was the average that they were looking at. Now, that person was just not speaking to people. They were doing everything else but speaking to people. And this is why I want to bring this up with you today, is we want to make sure that you're not distracting yourself with all the other things that you might perceive as is fun to build your business. Now, that could be everything from working on your website to writing some articles to, I don't know, going out for coffee, going to networking events. Now, networking events aren't bad because you get to have conversations. But if you think about the viable time within, let's say, a networking event, 200 people there, you go, oh, I was in a room with 200 people, but you only probably had an active conversation, a chat, if you will, with 3 to maybe 5 people. All right, so not necessarily effective use of time because most of those networking events go for a couple of hours. If you were to use the phone, if you were to use an email, if you were to use some form of text message device, you're going to get through a lot more chat starts, conversation starts in one day if you wanted to actually move this a lot faster. Now, if we work that back, right, so for every 90 conversations, because this was an average, so this is actually pretty accurate. This person had been running these ratios for some period of time. But for every 90 conversations, they were going to get $50,000. That means that we actually take $50,000 and we divide it by 90. Every single one of those calls was worth $555. Now, you may be saying, hang on, Russell, there is profit versus cost. We still need to deliver on this. Absolutely we do. The question is, as a consultant, what is your profit margin on the majority of these engagements? It's going to be pretty high. Usually at worst, it's going to be a 50% markup. For majority of consultants I know, it's usually a 200 or a 300% markup on their time, which means that you can actually look at this number and say it's pretty viable. Now, even let's just take the 50% markup. Cut this in half. All right, we're going to have some delivery time, but that means that it's over $250. In fact, a specific number would be $227.50. Hopefully I've got that right. You can tell me in the chat if I haven't. Which means that every single call you make is usually worth more than what you were originally charging as an hourly rate. And this is for a very small conversation. And so when you know what your specific ratios are, you can plan around this. Now, I've seen much shorter ratios. I've seen people go, I will talk to 5 people and I will get someone into a priority call. From there, I'm converting at 50% and then 50% again. I've seen people get up to 80% on the design call if they've been very specific and critical around some of these other areas so that they're speaking to the right prospects. Your numbers are your numbers. And even if you're starting out and some of these numbers are poor, you will probably find that the actual cost of making a phone call is actually a high average wage. And so it's definitely worth knowing these numbers to really understand the value of a conversation for you in your business. Now, if you are a consultant and you are charging a lot less than this, just consider how much you are charging. There are consultants out there that don't realize their opportunity to charge so much more. Back in the day, I used to work as a marketing agency and we would consult to people around their marketing. And we would submit for tenders that were about $25,000. And we would find out that the other competitors were around the same place too. We had some that were at $15,000, some were at $30,000. But often the ones that actually won were at $120,000 versus our $25,000. There is absolutely no reason why you can't charge far more than you currently expect if there is value available. And what we discovered through the process of those people charging a lot more is that they just made their process, their outcome, the way that they delivered what they gave, they made it much more valuable for the client. So that's your opportunity as well. So these 3 numbers, your chat number, your priority number, and your design number, if you're clear about what those numbers are, you can work out exactly how much it costs to have a conversation. And I think that will prompt you to have far more conversations in far less time. If you are interested in working with us, there are a couple of ways that you can do that. Number one is in the Forge Business Program. That's our accelerated program. That's where we work pretty much one-on-one with a very small group of people to work weekly to grow their businesses together. So we work with them to help them grow their businesses. Now, for those people who want much more of a lighter engagement, we do have the Consulting Guild where people can get all the education we have available and they can actually run at their own pace. If you're interested in either of those programs, then we'd love you to reach out to us. But if you don't have any money to spend right now, then you may just want to take advantage of the free resources we have available at russellpearsonprograms.com, where you can absolutely get yourself started, and we can help you with all sorts of things from finding where your clients might be right through to the sales processes and the marketing processes we use to ensure that we're getting consistent quality prospects into our pipeline every single week. So the key is to know what your numbers are, because if you've got numbers that are anything like this, you will now know that if you want to grow your business by an extra $200,000 in a year, then you just need to do 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90 conversations in the entire year, which is 360 conversations annually, less than one a day. And you really should be having at least 10 conversations a week. So the numbers are absolutely important, but they're your numbers. Your numbers are going to be different than other people's numbers. So don't judge yourself on these numbers. What else is going to be different is you're going to be different. What you bring to the table is going to be different. The service or the consulting that you deliver is going to be different, and the ideal client is going to be different as well. These are all different aspects that determine the makeup of your business. And I'd love to know a little bit more about you. So go to the comments below and actually type in, who is your ideal client? I would love to know a little bit more about you and your consulting practice. So you're aware of the type of work that we do, and obviously I have some team, but even when I didn't have team, I had a high rotation and a low rotation. High rotation was when I was growing my business. I wanted to add more clients into the business as fast as I could, which means I did 20 starts a day, 20 conversational starts every single day that actually got the ball rolling. Now, it's easier said than done if you're doing phone calls, because on average, we worked out in the old days that you could make 7 successful phone calls in an hour, so that's potentially a lot of your day. But you can absolutely use email, you can use text message, you can use a bunch of different forms of communication to get those conversations started, and then you allow them to flow in throughout the week. So I go 20 a day if I want a high rotation, and I would probably go 10 a week on a low rotation. Now, what's great about the low rotation is you can usually do marketing activities that will get people to raise their hand, so they're going to reach out to have more conversations with you. And you can absolutely count those people because they initiated the conversation. You still had the conversation. Tick 1 on there to actually make sure you've done it. And this is the way I would do it. I get myself a little whiteboard. I think I've got a little handheld one that I can use. So something along the lines of this. And I just put my hand all over the pen. I will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as I have these conversations, I tick them off for the day. And at a high rotation, I will just go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on the actual side of the board. I'll only work 5 days a week, which means that if you want to work faster, you absolutely can. And I'll do 20 a day. That's my high rotation. Now, I've actually got a client at the moment who doesn't have sight. They don't have sight at all. And they're still able to do this because we got a clicker. So we can actually have a conversation, click, have a conversation, click. Now, they do need to show the clicker to their partner to say, what am I up to? But it enables them to capture those numbers in a simplistic format that doesn't require a large CRM. A lot of the time when I'm speaking to really smart individuals, because they're usually from a production background, they want to put a CRM or some sort of production system in as soon as possible. You don't have to do that in the size business that you're after. You might only work with 10 odd customers at a time, which means that you really don't need a heavy-handed CRM to keep a track of that. Ideally, you can keep them in your head. If you can't keep them in your head, then maybe a paper journal or some sort of digital mechanism to actually follow it up. A spreadsheet will actually work really well at the start. The time to start putting a CRM is when you have a team of people who are working with you, so that you know what one person is saying to the client, another person can have a look at that record and actually see where they're up to in whatever conversation it is. My name's Russell Pearson. This has been episode number 86 of the Your Consulting Business podcast. Until next time, stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.